Welcome to the Under Construction Podcast with me, Martin Williams. Here we talk about how to build or rebuild your life one step at a time. Let's get to work. And welcome to the Under Construction Podcast. My name is Martin Williams, and this is day 4 of our 17-day journey through the science of getting rich. I initially called it 30 days, and then I realized that we didn't have 30 days worth of material. So it is 17 days, and I'll be making updates periodically to reflect that. If you have not already, please subscribe to the podcast. You can do so at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. All the links to this podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcasts with an S. Today, what I wanted to talk to you about, again, is day 4 of our journey through the science of getting rich. And this has to do with thought being the only power that can produce tangible riches from formless substance. Now, I said a mouthful, but I'm going to explain what I am talking about momentarily. So you've heard before that we become what we think about, right? If you've listened to any personal development, certainly within the last 10 years, you've heard that phrase said in one form or another, and it happens to be true. But where did that thinking come from? Well, I know that it came from the Bible, because the Bible says that as a man thinks, so he becomes. And it's been explained over and over again over the years. What I like about the science of getting rich is that it really goes into detail about what that means. When we have a thought, that thought doesn't just go anywhere. It goes into what Wallace Wattles calls the formless substance, right? Other people might call it the universe, the spirit realm, the field, the quantum field, whatever you want to call it. Our thoughts go somewhere, and they go into this substance where that substance begins to take the form of the thought that's put into it. So if you think about it, it's kind of like Play-Doh, right? You get this Play-Doh or putty, whatever you want to call it, and in your hands, that Play-Doh can become anything you want it to become. And if you're really good at it, you can create all kinds of cool things with Play-Doh. And it could be Legos, it can be sand at a beach. I live near a beach, so sometimes I see what people can do with sandcastles, and some of the sandcastles you see are just amazing. But really what it is it's a type and shadow of what our thoughts are doing into this formless substance. So when we think something, good, bad, or indifferent, it goes into this formless substance and it begins to create the reality of that thought. And this is why it's so important that we really pay attention to our thoughts, really pay attention to what we're thinking on a consistent basis. Because if you're thinking disastrous consequences, if you're thinking bad things, those bad thoughts are going out into the form of substance, and the substance is essentially creating those negative circumstances that none of us really want in our lives. I mean, none of us truly want to invite trouble into our lives, but because so many people are not in control of their thinking, they continue to do it, right? And so the main thrust of this chapter is really all about understanding the power of your thought and what that thought and what those thoughts are doing when you think them. So let's think about it from this standpoint. if it's a money thought, right? Every thought, whether it's a thought of abundance or a thought of poverty, is going into this formless substance and creating the situations that match the thought. So if you're constantly thinking, I don't have enough money, I can't pay this, I can't afford this, I can't do this, can't do that. If that's all you're thinking, every last one of those thoughts is going out into the formless substance, and the substance is creating situations to keep you in that situation. It's very important that you understand that. It's very important that you understand that. And if you don't get anything else from today or this entire series, that one thing can change your life. Too many people do not pay attention to how they think. They think negative. They think catastrophic. They think, oh, it's not going to work. Today is going to be a bad day. I'm not going to be able to get my project done. I'm not going to get good grades in this class. All these thoughts are going out into the formless substance. And that substance is taking that thought and creating it in our reality. They become our reality and they come back into our life. And then we wonder why we can't ever get out of debt, why we can't ever get out of sickness, disease, bad relationships, bad marriages, whatever the case may be. It's because of these thoughts that continue to go out and go forth. Okay? So like I said earlier, we extend our thought into the formless substance, which takes that thought and creates the form. Typically, human beings have reshaped or modified existing thought forms instead of creating new ones. It's easier to trace a picture than to draw it from scratch. But what happens is oftentimes, because we don't use the energy to create the life that we truly want, we basically recreate lives that we've seen over and over again. This is why, I don't know the exact statistic, but the majority of people who are living on public assistance had parents who lived on public assistance. And then they had parents who lived on public assistance. So it seems like that family is cursed, and you can call it that, but what it really is that the children, instead of creating a new thought form, are basically recreating what they saw growing up, which is very natural. Whether you grew up in poverty or grew up in abundance, you know, if your parents were married for a long time, it's a lot easier to recreate that in your life because you grew up seeing that. But if your parents have been married or remarried 2, 3, 4 times, it can be very difficult to create a new reality where you meet one person and you stay with them for the rest of your life. In order to create, you got to know that there's one formless substance from which every person on the planet works with and creates from. The same formless substance that Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Oprah Winfrey, any creator you want to think of, they use the exact same formless substance that you and I use. This is an amazing reality, an amazing revelation, because it means that no one person is born favored over another. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people have advantages, right? But those 3 people that I just mentioned all came from households where their parents weren't as rich as they are now. So it's not something where you have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth in order to be successful. You just have to understand how to use this formless substance, and really more to the point, how to think into that substance to create that which you want. Every successful person knows how to think into that formless substance, whether they did it on purpose or they learned, in an indirect way. They know how to think into that formless substance to create what it is that they want. So if you can think it, you can do it. A person's way of doing things is a direct result of what they think. High performers think differently than people who perform mediocre. I guess I'm looking for the right word. Who perform at an average rate. It's probably the best way of saying it. High performers think differently than everyone else. Why? Because they know what they want to create. They know the level at which they want to perform, and they think that into the formless substance. So to think what you want to think is to think the truth, regardless of appearances. To look at the appearance of disease is to produce the form of it in your mind and ultimately your body. So you hold the truth, the thought of truth, hold on to that thought until there is no disease. And it works this way with money, relationships, anything you want. Do not hold the thought of how things look right now, especially if they don't look the way that you want them to look. If you only have $10 in your bank account, don't stare at the screen, right? Don't stare at the screen at on your phone or on your computer, just looking at that $10, right? Think about the type of money, the amount of money that you want to have, and then begin to think from that place. Don't think of how much money you have now. Think about the type of money that you want to have and hold on to that thought. And what will happen is things will begin to align with that new thought of always having enough, always having more than enough, being able to help people that you want to help, being able to retire when you want, do what you want, live how you want. All of those things come from your thoughts. Every thought held in substance begins to form. So you can impress your thought on the original substance and cause it to take form. That's what I've basically been saying the entire time. When you realize this, we lose all doubt and fear because we know that we can create what we want to create. We can get what we want to have. That's an amazing power. You don't have to fear. You don't have to doubt anymore because you have the power to think what you want to think and create your own truth. Think about recessions. How many people get rich in recessions? It's more than you might think. Why is that? Because they don't allow the conditions to dictate what they're going to do. They have an idea and they've decided they're going to put it out regardless of how the conditions look around them. The original substance has an intelligence within it. It knows how to create what you put into it. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to figure out how you're going to get out of debt. You don't have to figure out how you're going to get your first home. You don't have to figure out how you're going to get your dream car. You don't have to figure any of that out. Just start thinking as if you have it now, right this second. Think from that place. And the more you think from that place, and here's the key, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Do not go back to thinking, well, I don't have it, or I can't afford it, or my credit's not good enough. No, hold on to that thought. Hold on to that thought until the thing manifests. Don't entertain anything that suggests contrary to this principle. No matter where it comes from, no matter who says it, don't accept it. Because this is the simplest explanation of faith that I've ever heard. It's been around since the beginning of time, since the time of Christ, and even before. This is what faith is. Acting as if, walking as if it's true. And then living from that place that I've already got it. And when you start living like this and start thinking like this on a consistent basis, you're going to find your life changing in ways that you never thought possible. And I am so excited for you to really grasp hold of that and really start practicing this. And that is all I had for today. Please read the book. Please go through it, study it. It's not just a book to be read. It's really a textbook. Really study it. Take good notes. And I will see you back here tomorrow for day 5, increasing faith. And I can't wait to talk about that. So my name is Martin Williams. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. I really appreciate it. And if you would, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and, comment, share, all that good stuff. And I will talk to you soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the Under Construction podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. For more information on Guided Expressions courses and products, go to guidedexpressions.com/products.